there's still some market trends that you factor in when trying to create this innovative product. That's like how do you choose to kind of keep certain things, but then innovate on others?
It's a very good question. When we started art, we had a lot of talk about like exactly this kind of field. If you look at our logo for ARC, it's a Venn diagram, and it's
Yeah.
exactly about that. Yeah, it's this idea of okay, what are the core ideas, the essential ideas that form a product that are absolutely necessary, and what new ideas can we introduce to this? And this kind of like reductionist approach where you first consider okay, what do we actually need from this product, and what is just kind of added stuff that we just have but isn't essential to the product function. That I think is always the first step.
How did it look like with Naya, for example?
So the core idea there was okay, what jobs do we actually need to do with our keyboards, and what are the kinds of functions that we fulfill on a daily basis, and what do we need for that? It started very much with the why do our current keyboards look the way they are, and the historical background of it. History is often a very good teacher on what the actual essential idea is, because very often you see in the changes that are made to a product that something wasn't right yet, because otherwise you wouldn't change it. So the things that are added or changed, the things that are most changed are often the most important ones. Like with the keyboard, we very quickly figured out, okay, QWERTY, as bad as it is, you don't really want to touch it, because force of habit is just too big. There are better options. There certainly are better options, but it's easy enough for people to do it themselves. Where building around these options is generally a very niche topic. Let's talk about like corded devices, etc. These kinds of things.
Yeah.
So you want to keep a certain familiarity of okay, key presses aren't sounds; they are specific letters and functions and these kinds of things. But then the entire arrangement of it, while it has a certain amount of training in it, is much easier to identify as an actual problem because we see the negatives it causes, right? We see much clearer, okay, this actually causes physical pain in most people, in many people of the workforce, and causes work absenteeism and everything. So those things kind of had to change. It's our keyboards aren't meant to like break our arms. They're meant to type something or get a job done. So
you're referring
that kind of conflicted.
So you're referring to like the layout, like the QWERTY layout, for example, being suboptimal for like wrist health.
The QWERTY layout is just a slight inefficiency.
Okay,
it isn't necessarily unhealthy.
But more so the form factor of,
or at least
traditional keyboards, you mean?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of companies that have like built products like this, right? We're not new when it comes to making a split and ergonomic keyboard or making an ortholinear layout. Those are well established ideas for many decades now, and for quite a while actually, Microsoft's ergonomic keyboard was the best-selling keyboard in the world. They're like ergonomic keyboard, right? We're at over 120,000 units a month. So really, this idea that this needs to change is absolutely not new. The problem really has been with what keeps people on a platform like this. So what incentive do you give someone to say, okay, I actually do have to change? We have one group that, well, they really don't have a choice. That is people who have active RSI complaints, people who have active complaints because of the ergonomics of their keyboard. They have to change because they simply cannot use a regular keyboard anymore.
Yeah.
But most of these people will very much agree that the moment you notice this problem, you regret not having done something about it much earlier, because many of these problems are basically irreversible. I talked a little bit about the letter keys being in a certain arrangement because of legacy and why this is so difficult to change. But I think when we look one step beyond that, what has happened since, I quite a bit ago mentioned it's interesting to see what changes over time, because that often symbols what is the actual current need for these products. But we had typewriters, we had, well, letters, and eventually added numbers. So we had an alphanumerical keyboard. There were no control or shift keys or alt or like these kinds of things. That was not a thing. So all of these keys were just arranged in a square around the alphanumerical keys. That's the only reason they are where they are. There is no reason why our backspace is in that corner or our Windows key is in that location. That is indeed also what we then saw with the ergonomics keyboards, what was most changed, right? We barely see people who put the control key instead of your D key in the middle of the keyboard. But we very often see changes to this kind of key layout. That I think also brings us to what we believe to be the main reason why we should make the switch, or how we can give people an incentive to make that switch and give them an additional feature, an additional function that they didn't have on any other keyboard ever before, that keeps you coming back to a more ergonomic, or a solution that is better for the health of your arms. And that is with our modules.
Right.
We have added something in the most notable change. So usually when you split a keyboard, it is purely for the sake of splitting it. The main reason is you want to do something ergonomic. You want to do something that you know is better for your health. But if that comes at a significant downside for your productivity, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly.
Very few people are. I admire those who do. But by giving you a reason why you should split it, so that you can use that space in between your keyboard more effectively by, for example, adding modules, is what we really hope will accelerate this field further, to bring more people who otherwise wouldn't move into this field in. And I think the notable part here is when we look at how we type on our smartphones, we type purely with our thumbs, right? Like our thumbs do everything.
Yeah.
And then on our computer, our thumbs together have a single key that they hit over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And really giving you more options to use your thumb and to interact with the kind of complexity that our thumbs can do. That just gives you so many more options that make Create better than basically anything that is currently on the market.
Yeah, no, actually, it's a very good point, because like while me and Nicholas were in Hanover for the trade show, like we had some discussions with some guys at Autodesk, and some of them also were saying something like, like we're currently the thumb generation, because we do everything like with our thumbs, you know, like in terms of like game controller joysticks, or like iPhones, or like, you know, all these complex manipulations are like done with our thumb. And like it makes sense, because I feel like the thumb, I think, is a very dynamic sort of
distinguishing feature.
Exactly, like of the human hand, you know. And it's like,
yes,
I think like with the modules, it really does like kind of address that elephant in the room with keyboards, where it's like, oh, the only function of my thumb is to like press the space bar, you know.
Like, opposable thumbs are kind of the most important thing in human evolution. Let's not talk about our brains, but from a motoric skill perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
And on our keyboards, it's like you could ask a few people if they press their spacebar with their left or right hand, and some do it with both hands, depending on which hand types.
Yeah.
But for most people, it's really not used much.
Yeah, it's
By
true.
changing the form factor a little bit, we can really open up some options that you otherwise wouldn't have. Putting these control keys that were just randomly assorted around the box into a location that is actually much more usable.